Hey guys, welcome back to a special episode of the Three Brothers Podcast. Today we are celebrating our last day as Tyler and I are in London, and this has been a super eventful week. We're on location in front of Tower Bridge right now. We're actually at the pier where the Uber boats come in.
Uber boats.
Yeah, you can see behind us, it's like gorgeous view of Tower Bridge, which actually is the bridge that is most misconstrued as London Bridge, which I think Ty even said that once this trip.
I did at first, and then you corrected me a lot, so I was like, okay.
And guys, pardon the sound of the waves in the background. We can't help that there are boats going by tonight. But yeah, it's been a crazy week. We have talked about some of this in our daily vlog, so this is going to be a condensed version of our trip recap. But this being Ty's first trip to the UK, I want to hear a little bit about his experience.
So, I don't really get out much. The furthest I've ever been was Germany. That was a great experience, but it was very bad itinerary planning, as we talked about. But we decided to impulsively almost just come to London, and I love it here. I don't want to go back home. We went to Oxford first, and I was obsessed with it. I loved Oxford so much.
We were at New York Comic Con last weekend, and then right afterwards we flew here to London Heathrow, took a bus to Oxford, and we spent two days, 2 nights there. We did a couple of tours of the city, including a Harry Potter themed tour.
Oh, that's so cool.
What was the best part of Oxford for you?
Oxford was very small, sort of. Everyone's really nice there. We met a lot of really awesome people. And Oxford's architecture is all old and still standing strong. So everything is just built different. And it just was really nice looking. It was a different point of view that I never got to see before.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think the older architecture definitely stands up to the test of time better than some of the things we have in America. Although New York City is much more vertical. We have a lot of really, really tall buildings. I find that Oxford didn't have any tall buildings, but they were all just super historic, going back hundreds of years.
Yeah, I'd say close to 1,000 some things were there. Because there's a lot of labeling on a lot of the buildings and stuff, and some were going back deep in time.
So while we were there, we met this travel influencer from Brazil, actually. Her name is Marcella. Shout out to her. We ended up running into her on the grounds of Oxford. She invited us out for a pint, and that was our first friend we made on this trip. That was amazing. Apparently she travels the world because she owns her own media company, and it was just really cool to connect with another influencer. Ty and her had a long conversation about how different social medias are affecting their ability to post videos and get views and stuff. It was really cool.
Yes, if many of you people who do social media, the algorithm sucks and it is not working, and especially with TikTok. I loved TikTok so much at one point, and now it's just a TikTok shop. But that's just a whole nother thing. But me and her were getting in on it, and she was agreeing with the same thing. We both have better traction through other social media platforms than just TikTok.
So after that, we had a couple of good nights out in Oxford, and we immediately took the train to London, where we arrived in Whitechapel. And I didn't expect this, but Whitechapel is very ethnic. This area has always been known as a poverty-stricken area, and it's the home of Jack the Ripper, where he committed his murders back in the day. So it was a very interesting location for us to stay. But right now, it's very ethnic. It's very Middle Eastern, and I think we were surprised to see all these different shops. It looked like stepping out of the train station into a bazaar. We had curry shops and different perfume, cologne shops, and very interesting street vendors while we walked to our Airbnb, so I thought that was cool. We never got to try curry this trip, although I have had it previously in London.
Yeah, we haven't had straight Indian curry. We've had other curries here, which were very, very, very good. But I have heard, the Indian curry here is, amazing, but also could be home-wrecking.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow, home-wrecking, you mean bathroom wrecking.
Oh, that's exactly what I mean. I forgot to mention in Oxford, we did something crazy. I know this is a little backtracking, sorry, but we were just roaming the streets, and Mike pointed out this church that we walked by, and I thought we saw this church already, but there's people inside it, and we're like, oh, what's going on? And Mike was like, all right, let's take a look really quick. And we walked over there, and we walked pretty much not even inside. We just looked, and a lady jumped out. It was like, oh, hey guys, blah blah blah, like getting to know us. And then all of a sudden, she invited us in, and now we're actually at a Bible group study, thrown into a random crowd of dudes. Like it was guys and girls there all over, but there was all these different groups with certain like age ranges, and they just threw us in a group. And my gosh, we just met some amazing people and had like a really cool sermon as well.
It was honestly fantastic. And we talked about this in one of our previous videos, but I just love to like look at church architecture, especially in Europe. It's just so different than in America. It's like older and richer, and the cathedrals that they have here are amazing. So I took interest in this building, and it turns out that this it was called Alpha. It's a Church of England small groups thing. So we had the pastor of the church give a fire message, like
yeah, it was fire.
Super great message about the validity of Christ's existence as a historical figure based on the evidence in scripture. And then we went on to do a small group discussion, and there were a bunch of questions that were asked by the leaders. We really connected with some of these guys.
Yeah, because there was one kid who was really going through it, and he loved what Mike had to say, and he wanted my opinion on some things, and he asked us to go out after, like talk to him for like a while. We went out to like a normal pub, because you are allowed to drink, just don't get drunk. So we went out to a pub and we're just hanging out, us three, and he's just kind of telling us like his life story a little bit, and we're getting to know him a little better, and we're kind of giving him like some advice, because I've slightly been through what he's been through, and then so has Mike. It was really good talking to him, even though it was unfortunate it was our last time seeing him, but yeah, that whole crew, they were great.
Once he comes to New York to visit, although we might get invited to his wedding one day.
Yeah, he said he's gonna go to South Carolina and have a wedding there, and he's gonna invite us. I hope that happens for him, and I will go. I will literally go.
I'll go. You and me. We'll be the best men. But I think the Lord's really working in his life without sharing too much of his personal details. There were a lot of confirmations that night that the Lord was doing something to affirm his prayers, which I thought was really powerful.
Yeah, he was just young, a little naive with certain things, and he just needed to have more mature people give him a better response and the response he wanted. And I think he liked that. I think after a point of time throughout the night, like with the confirmations you were saying, like he kind of like understood.
Yeah.
And which made it better.
Yeah, well, that was great. And since we're completely backtracking, we met these two guys. One of them was like crazy drunk, saying some wild stuff, but the other guy was really cool, and he took a liking to us, like off the street.
Super nice guy.
Because we're from New York, and he runs a restaurant in London somewhere. But yeah, he invited us out for drinks. We had some drinks. What was the name again?
See, the problem is with these names out here, they're very unique and authentic, so it's kind of hard to remember each name.
Sure.
And we have such American names. They're like, oh, no one here is named Mike or Tyler.
Right.
So I can't really remember his name exactly. Really nice guy. His other friend was super pissed though. If you don't know what piss means, it means you're drunk here.
Yeah. So piss is what they call drunk. And right after that encounter, after having like a couple of drinks at this 2-story bar in Oxford, we ended up trying to get home, and we both had to take a piss, which in this case means pee. And we go in this gate, like, I guess it was my idea. We go in this gate, and I'm like, oh, this is like a secluded area. I'm just gonna like pee over here real quick. And Tyler's like, all right, I'll watch out, and I'll go after you. The second I start peeing, the gate closes behind us. And there's an intercom, which we didn't even realize was there. Apparently we were caught on like camera, and like security guard on the intercom was like, you guys aren't supposed to be here, you're trespassing, I can't let you leave. You'll have to tell the police when they get here why you're trespassing on this property.
So bro called the police on us in an instant and locked the gate, and I was looking at Mike like, I'm like, bro, the gate just closed. And he's like, what do you mean? And he had to stop mid-pee, and then we hear the guy in the intercom, he's saying that the police are coming, and Mike looked at me and said, screw that, and he hopped the fence, and I looked at him and I said, are we really doing this? And he's like, yeah, so I hopped the gate as well, and then we took off, and after that we were like wanted...
we were wanted fugitives.
Yeah.
There was like a stone wall that was connected to this gate, and it had like spikes on the top. So I hopped up onto the stone wall, ran along it for like a few paces, and then just like hopped over the spikes. And Ty was like, am I really doing this right now? I'm like, dude, I'm already gone. Come on, hurry up.
Yeah. I mean, good thing the police don't show up in a minute, in like an instant when you call them here.
Yeah, they have really shitty response times.
Yeah, they have a bad response time, so it didn't show up right away. So we had enough time to just dip.
Yeah. That night we went straight back to the Airbnb. We just like called it quits. Laid low for the rest of the night. So yeah, so our first night out, what did we do?
First night out in London, we walked Tower Bridge, and we ended up getting some dim sum at a interesting place. It was actually really good. It was really, really good.
The food was amazing, but like I said in our daily vlog videos, the people serving us were all, how do I say this without getting canceled? They reminded me of the characters from One Piece who inhabit Ivankov's island. If you don't know what I mean, look it up. It was a little off-putting, but we suffered through it, and the food was amazing. I love dim sum.
Yeah, they were super nice too, and the food was just awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. After that, we went out in Piccadilly Circus, which is like England's version of Times Square with all the screens and stuff. It's much smaller, but it's really cool. And then what did we do after that?
We actually made some friends because we met a lot of great people on this trip. Just like hanging out, hopping around pubs to pubs, and there was these two girls named Marisa and Julie. Super nice. They're from Switzerland, and they were just like cool people.
Hanging out with Marisa and Julie was like one of the highlights of our trip. They are just like such sweet girls. They're just finishing up like traveling Europe before they go back to Zurich, Switzerland to, I guess, start working or whatever.
Then I got really ill like halfway through.
Yeah.
I was going out every other night, which made it even worse. And like I let him like go out and have fun.
Well, I like to experience the nightlife in London because it's just so unique. Like you don't get the same thing in New York. It's kind of like, unless you have a plan on where you're going to go during a night out in New York, then you kind of like lost. In London, you could just walk down the street and there's always a pub to like grab like a craft beer or something. And I love craft beer. So I would find myself just like, Ty would go home, he's like, oh, I'm coughing to death.
Yeah, I was coughing to death.
And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to grab a drink or two and then I'll meet you back at the Airbnb, which is fine. It was great.
Yeah, so basically, the second day here, we had tickets to go to the Jack the Ripper Museum because it was right around the corner from us in Whitechapel. Like, I personally find this type of stuff interesting. Not saying I condone any of the things that happen, but I just find like all like the murder mysteries and stuff like that, like, really intriguing. And
I don't think that's too controversial. I think a lot of people are into true crime nowadays.
It's yeah, true, but the things he did to the woman, because there's the only woman he went after. He didn't go for any men. Obviously, that's an issue there. But yeah, some of the things he did was very graphic. We would show you, but we'd probably get it taken down because they showed some gruesome images. But it was really cool seeing like they like recreated like certain parts. Nothing too horrific, obviously. They just recreated like areas that it happened. Police officer that was doing the investigation, we saw like a wax model of him like doing the work and like all the pinpoints on like where this guy is going and who he's going after. Like,
He obviously wasn't a very good detective because they never caught Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate.
But you were telling me a fun fact about a recent movie we saw.
So recently, Terrifier 3 came out, and if you haven't seen it, go see it. Some people think it's disgusting. It's a great slasher movie and series that's just been blowing up. And I actually found out, because I really love the Terrifier series, that a lot of the killings in Terrifier 3 are based off Jack the Ripper and some of the things he did. But it wasn't just towards women. It was towards, obviously, men and women.
Yeah, sure. Although Terrifier 3 is insane. It's not rated, and it just became the highest grossing unrated film of all time, right?
Yes, of all time.
Which is insane. The scenes in that movie are not for the faint of heart. Absolutely, it lives up to its name. It's Terrifier. It's completely terrifying to watch, and gruesome, like body horror, like complete mutilation. It's wild.
Yeah, you have to be a certain type of person to watch this movie.
Like you have to be a
lot of
desensitized.
people, a lot of people like to say like you have to be sick in the head watching. Like that's not true, because in reality, all of it's fake, and you can see how fake it is. But like, I'm just a horror movie fan. I'm just a movie fan in general. I watch anything, even if it's bad or good. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, you and Ethan are like big horror movie fans.
Yeah, the third brother. Yeah, on here. He's another big horror movie fan, and I get to talk to a lot about it with him. The paranormal stuff sometimes gets a little out of hand because of like what I believe in, but a lot of the slashers, like, they're so stupid half of the time that it just makes it good. So like, I'm a big slasher guy more than anything.
So after that, we actually ended up going to something that Ty was really excited for.
Yes. So, if anyone knows me, I don't really post about it much, but I will be once the new season comes out. I am the biggest Stranger Things fan. I'm such a fangirl for it. I've been a fan since the day it came out. It's my favorite show of all time. Sorry to my One Piece fans, but it's my favorite show. And I think it was a year and a half ago, or maybe close to 2 years, when they first announced they're coming out with the first Shadow play. It's a prequel to the entire show. And, you know, it was right after the 4th season, so probably about 2 years ago. And they announced it only being in London. And I looked at Mike and I was like, yo, we're going to London. How close is it near us? And he was like, oh, it's really close. I said, book it right now. I was like, I don't care how much it is, we're going.
And I happen to be a big fan of the theater. I love musical theater. I love dramas, plays, and stuff. Anytime I'm in London, I use that as an excuse to see a play that you can't see on Broadway in New York. This was perfect because it's a London exclusive for now.
Best play I've ever seen. I know it's not for him. Granted, he's seen more plays than I have. I've seen a couple here and there. I was never really like brought up into going to plays, but now, like recently, I've been going to more. Like I was recently at the Attack on Titan musical in New York City.
I heard that was really good.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. But besides that, like, it kind of just intrigued me more that, like, the things I love are coming as a show on Broadway, basically. Because actually, the Stranger Things play, they announced, literally right when we got here, they announced that they're coming to New York next year. So I'm going again, and this time in my own home.
It's probably going to be more expensive there, though.
It will be more expensive because obviously it's going to be a bigger venue. Yeah, because the venue we were at was very small, but it was so good. Like, they did such an amazing job. And like he was saying to me after it, he loved all the special effects.
Yes. So this show actually had the second best special effects I've seen on stage, right after the Harry Potter Cursed Child. And I know like people give that play a bad rap because it's kind of an unnecessary sequel to the Harry Potter franchise, but I think that play had amazing special effects. And this one was a very close second. The set design was awesome. The like lighting was incredible, and they did a couple of really cool scenes where it went into slow motion as like one of the main characters was falling off of a scaffolding, and it was awesome. Really, really cool.
I'm not a spoiler, so I won't spoil it if you want to see it, but it's really based off Henry Creel, and then you get to see all of the main characters in the show that are adults as kids in high school. Like, they're like seniors in high school, and Henry Creel, you see him knowing them because he went to high school with them, and then, yeah, like, they just did a great job. And that kid who played Henry Creel, he was great.
Yeah.
He was, like, top-notch.
And the girl who played
Joyce.
She looked just like Winona Ryder.
Like, she sounded and looked like her and acted her like her. It was almost like you put her in the show and make her look older, you wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, for real. It was a great show. And for those of you guys who are not familiar with who Henry Creel is, he goes on to be Vecna.
Yeah, basically, I'll make this quick. Like, he became Vecna in the right before season 1, but he wasn't around, and that's a whole nother thing. Okay. And in season 4, they just showed the backstory of how he became Vecna.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like, slight backstory, because this play was even more the backstory of him when he was younger. Because in the 4th season, they showed him when he was young, but they only showed a couple scenes. They showed him as like kind of like an adult when he was working with the kids. But this play was just, it was way before everything.
That's awesome. So the next day, which was Friday, so we arrived on a Monday. We did 2 days in Oxford, then 2 days in London, just touring around. Now Friday comes along, and we are going into MCM Comic Con, which was like one of the main reasons we decided to come to London. And this is the first of 3 days that we were at the con. So we dressed up as Deadpool and Wolverine that day. Give me your impressions on how different London Comic Con was from New York Comic Con.
New York Comic Con obviously is the best. You're always going to have a good time. You're never going to not enjoy it. And obviously way more people. MCM Comic Con, it was definitely fun. Personally, I know I enjoyed it a little more than Mike. He was kind of grieving it at one point. But the convention itself, it was really big. Really, really big. 2 whole sides that were just long. The only issue I had at this convention throughout all 3 days was a lot of the people were not very social. They were very to themselves. which is fine, but
there wasn't a strong sense of community, especially amongst the cosplayers. In New York, we expect, like, we're taking photos with everybody. We're, like, doing wacky skits maybe for TikTok or whatever. People, like, will just be super friendly, especially if you're in a cosplay of something they enjoy. Over here, I have to say they were all in really great cosplays. They take cosplay super seriously.
He's saying it good right now because I couldn't explain that. And yeah, the cosplaying here is top notch, and it might even be close to beating New York cosplayers.
I think
and I love my New York cosplayers, and you guys are like my great friends too. And I think you should come out here and go to this convention just to have a cosplay contest. Because my gosh, some of the cosplays we saw were just like, whoa, like how'd you do that?
And the best part is like obviously the influencers who are into cosplaying in New York, fantastic, top-notch cosplayers.
Oh, for sure.
And we know some of them personally. But over here, people who really don't have any social media presence are in full cosplay. Like, they look professional. Like, they either bought the suit or they made it painstakingly by hand. It was fantastic. What was the best cosplay we saw? I happen to like the Buzz Lightyear one. I interviewed this guy who was dressed as Buzz Lightyear from the new movie.
Yeah, that was really good. There was a lot of Hazbin Hotel cosplayers, but that was only because the Hazbin Hotel like voice acting crew, like a good majority of them were here at this convention. I don't know the best cosplay I saw. I mean, there was a lot of good ones that from like stuff I haven't seen. I noticed.
Sure. Anime wise or
anime and just like anything in general.
Yeah.
Our Deadpool and Wolverine went like crazy here for some reason.
Yeah, they loved it.
They, like,
everybody
loved us.
wanted to take pictures with us. And I noticed that because it was the first day, there weren't a lot of people dressed as Deadpool and Wolverine. The second and third day, everybody came out as Deadpool.
Yeah, and there were some really good ones.
There were.
Really good ones.
Definitely. But we had a bit of like celebrity presence as Deadpool and Wolverine that first day.
No, that first day went crazy for us. Every time I took off the mask, I had to keep putting it back on because someone was like, I need a picture, I need a picture. I'm like, all right, I got you. Like, I'll put on the mask for you, don't worry. But, I mean, it was fun.
We did have Spanish tapas. For those of you guys who don't know, Spanish tapas is kind of like the Spanish version of dim sum. You kind of order a bunch of small dishes a la carte, and they bring it to your table. It's mostly like dinner, whereas dim sum is appetizers. So it's actually exactly like.
it's a literally dim sum, but just Spanish food.
Yeah, fantastic. We were actually doing that dressed as Deadpool and Wolverine in the restaurant, which is kind of funny. But yeah.
And then, I mean, day 2 of MCM, we went as Luffy and Sabo. Everyone loved it. But not enough people, I felt like, were too big into it. But then when we talk to people, they're like, oh yeah, I'm a huge One Piece fan. And it's like, but you didn't like...
But you didn't ask us to take pictures. Why wouldn't you? And which is something we're used to in New York because everybody loves his Sabo. He is absolutely iconic as Sabo. And if he doesn't get cast in the live action, I'm going to be mad, and half the cosplayers in New York are going to be mad.
Listen, Brandon, anime news guy, I'm sending you my highlight reel, and you're going to get it, and it's going to be my audition tape as well. I'm going to make one.
Actually, now that you mention that, spoiler alert, after this trip, I fly to Fort Lauderdale, which I'm going to be spending most of my time in Miami, Florida for the next 4 days during Halloween. And I have plans to link up with Brandon and actually interview him.
Love that guy. He is such a great friend to us, and
he really is.
We just love him.
Yeah.
He's great.
He's a newer friend, but when you know somebody's just like such a genuine person, you tend to just like latch onto them, and he's just like one of those guys. Like you can't not like get along with him. He's so genuine. He's so awesome.
I mean, for day 2 though, like it was definitely a little more chill until we started standing. I think we were moving a lot on day 2. We definitely didn't move a lot the first day, but I noticed when on day 2 when we kind of like stopped, then people were starting to come up to us a little bit. And I even had one girl that followed us here from London. She had a really good Captain Kidd cosplay, and she commented on our photo and was like, I was too nervous to come up and take a picture of you guys. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter, like you can always do that.
Is that the girl that followed me on Instagram?
Yeah.
She followed us here from New York?
No, she's from London, but she saw us at the con.
Oh, okay.
And then somehow found out our Instagram and followed us. Like, I posted a picture of us as Luffy and Sabo, and she commented being like, oh, I was too nervous to come up to you guys. I mean, it's okay. We're not scary.
Yeah, we should actually, that would be cool if we could edit a photo of us all together just to throw it her way.
Yeah, because hers was really sick.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, I have the blow-up arm, the inflatable arm, which resembles Luffy's third gear, but this girl had an entire Eustace Kid metal arm. It didn't move or anything, but it looked so cool. It was like the scrap arm that he makes in the anime.
And it was huge.
Yeah, it was really big.
It was like this almost half of my body size. And that was really it on day 2. We kind of called it like early.
The third day, we came to the con in street clothes, and we had the intentions of interviewing people, which went pretty well, actually.
I just wanted to grab everyone that I did an interview with and shake them, because they were super nice. It was almost like they were too scared to speak. And I'm like I'm trying to make this really comfortable for you. And I gave them the option, obviously, like, you don't have to be in the video. I kindly asked people, like, oh, do you want to be in this interview with me? And a lot of people said no. Like, a lot of people said no. We were both like, wow, like, a lot of people are saying no to this. But then a lot of people definitely said yes, too, for sure.
I think obviously more people said yes, because we do have a lot of interviews. But I noticed that people in London that attend these conventions are all a little bit off. And I don't want to get canceled for saying this, but I take full responsibility for this.
This guy's mean, bro. I've been trying to call him out on it. But.
Like, I find there are many more people here than in any other convention I've gone to that are either they have certain accessibility needs, or maybe they are a little bit on the spectrum more than most people. Or I find a lot of cross-dressers at these conventions more than New York. And all these things are surprising to me, only because I'm not used to it. And it was a very interesting learning experience to be like going up to somebody and having them reject our interview proposal, even though we were like, we love your cosplay. Like,
yeah, because there was that one girl dressed up as Corona from Soul Eater, and I went up to her. I was like, I just literally said off, like, I really love your cosplay. Would you mind being in an interview with me? So like, she almost had a heart attack. Like, I was like, you don't have to. And she was like, oh, like, it's fine. And then I was like, all right, like, it's okay. You don't have to. She's like, can I say no? I was like, yes, you can say no.
Yeah.
And then she just walked away and whatever.
I had a girl I interviewed. She was wearing, I think, a Cloud Strife costume, right?
Yes.
From Final Fantasy. The interview went fine. She was a little awkward. No big deal. Like, it was great. She seemed like a really sweet girl. But she had said something in the interview that she doesn't prefer first-person shooters. I thought that was a fine opinion, because I love first-person shooters, but they're definitely not my favorite. I think they're mundane and like overproduced, and everybody loves Call of Duty, but there's like Black Ops 6 coming out, and once you've seen one, you've seen them all. Like, they don't have storylines. I prefer story-driven games. So did she. But when she gave that answer, she asked if I could cut it out of the video, because she was afraid that the people on the internet wouldn't take kindly to that response. And I asked her, oh, okay, well, do you have social media? I still want to tag you in the interview. She's like, no, I don't have social media. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm saying, why do you need your response taken out? You're in costume. Nobody knows who you are. You're not on social media. So what's the difference? Like,
yeah,
I think people are going to love that response.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, that's a really good, like, take and response that she gave, because it's true. A lot of people don't, and a lot of people do. But it was very interesting, her saying that. And I remember looking at him like, oh, like, I wasn't sure at first. I was like, I don't really know what she means by this, but okay.
Right. Yeah.
Now, nothing bad about the people here in London at the conventions. It's just a little surprising for us. Because in New York, you run up to someone, they're going crazy on that mic. You hand them a mic, they're going crazy.
Yeah, I think we all have egos in New York.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, Sunday night was a bit of a shorter day. They ended at 5, and then what did we do after that?
So basically, you know, we had some dinner together, and
we went to see Venom.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that was the biggest highlight besides being in that theater. So we went and saw Venom 3 on Sunday night, and I like the Venom series a little bit. I don't think they're the best, obviously, but we went to the biggest IMAX theater in all of London, the BFI Max it's called. It ended up actually being the theater they held the world premiere for
Like
Venom.
A week before, right?
Yeah, a week before.
So what was your impression of Venom 3, and also the experience at BFI IMAX?
The theater was cool. The only thing is they don't have reclining seats, which is fine. But the theater is really clean. It's very like proper, closing the door, almost like a play.
Yeah.
Showtime.
They treated it like a performance.
But then this guy over here almost got us thrown out because he was on his phone during the movie. And I know we mentioned this in the vlog a little bit too. Once the security guard saw him, because he was like watching like a hawk, everyone from the top, he ran down there, ran in the row, and like threatened him. And I looked at him and I was just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, he saw the light on my phone and he was like, get off your phone now. And I was like, oh, he did, okay. But he came out of nowhere, man. He was sprinting.
Yeah, it was fast. He just like appeared. That was fantastic. I think every theater should almost replicate that. Even like I know he got in trouble for being on his phone. I hate when people go on their phone during movies. So I think like that's cool.
In my defense, I am the travel coordinator on this trip, so I was making further plans and checking itineraries and coordinating with all the friends we've met so far, because a lot of them asked us to hang out again. So I was like, oh, maybe we'll see you tomorrow night or whatever. I don't know what's going on. So I was texting people and WhatsApping people. I hate WhatsApp.
Yeah, WhatsApp sucks.
Yeah, WhatsApp is really terrible.
My thoughts on Venom 3? It's definitely probably the best out of the 3 movies. I think the first one is really good. I don't know. It's hard leading to it because I liked how they introduced a lot of different symbiotes in this movie. And Noel, even though Noel had no screen time, he had such a big little part of the movie. It was weird and very sad. Didn't see Andrew Garfield because he ended up in New York.
Oh yeah.
Eddie Brock ended up going to New York. I'm not gonna say for what reason or how, but
yeah, in the movie he goes to New York.
And unfortunately, we never got to see him interact with Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker or Spider-Man,
which was rumored.
Very heavily rumored. Even before when the movie was announced, you look it up on Google, and the cast, he was in it, and he wasn't in it.
All right, well maybe we'll see him in Doomsday. But yeah, this is a hot take. I thought the movie was trash. I haven't really seen the first 2 Venom movies, but I literally thought the movie was rough.
Yeah, so that's hard to say because I know you went into this not seeing the other 2. Maybe if you see the other 2, you'll have a better, you'll be alright, that wasn't as bad.
I'm familiar with the symbiotes from the comics, and I thought that was the most interesting part. But the payoff of the movie, kind of the whole build-up was boring to me. The symbiote fights and all that stuff was cool to see all these different characters, but then I thought the ending of that fight was disappointing. And then the ending of the movie was obviously a cliffhanger, but it was also disappointing. So,
yeah. So basically, the Venom movies feel like a never-ending thing that's gonna happen. There's always something next.
So you gotta almost watch them all in one straight go once they're all out.
Because I know this is technically supposed to be the trilogy and the last of it, but
it's definitely not.
The way they ended it, there's no way.
Yeah. Typhoid Tyler over here keeps coughing during.
Yeah, sorry. It's a little chilly out here, and I was very ill.
Yeah. Fast forwarding to the day after Comic Con, which was this past Monday, yesterday, I had a special surprise for Tyler. He didn't know I planned this, but back in New York, I go indoor rock climbing with my friend Lynn sometimes. And I guess he just inspired me to get a little more interested in the sport. And so I started getting these Instagram reels of different people doing bouldering, indoor bouldering, which is a form of rock climbing where you don't use ropes, it's very low to the ground. And so, long story short, one of the reels I saw was an advertisement of this guy climbing at something called Castle Climb, which is in London. It's in northern London, and it's this old factory that has been, I guess, dressed up to look like a castle for the sake of being more aesthetically pleasing to the town around it. And inside, they built an entire climbing gym, which it's incredible. And so I was so intrigued by this Instagram post that I had planned a whole day to go there and
and not even to stop him here. I was so ready for this mystery day that we're doing. And he kept saying to me, he's it's super athletic, and I'm and I've fallen ill, so I was not looking forward to it. And it was we were late too, because in the morning I was having such issues that. Yesterday morning was the worst physically I think I felt moving around and stuff. And I was almost looking at him dude, I'm gonna have to stay home. Because I had a feeling he was gonna take me on a hike. Even though there's no mountains really around here. But in general, I thought it was just gonna be we're walking somewhere far, all these trails and a hike or whatever. And I was gonna be dude, I can't do it. And he was oh, no, you don't have to do that. I was I can sit down if I'm there? And he's yeah. So I was alright, bet. I was I'm just gonna bring some stuff just in case. And yeah, it ended up being rock climbing.
We took an Uber, and our Uber driver happened to be a Christian, which made for some great conversations. That's just a side note.
For sure.
He was incredible. I was surprised that even though he wasn't feeling in tip-top shape, he still did all the walls. He was climbing really well. And we did top roping with an auto belay, which is a giant seatbelt. When you fall, it locks in, and it lets you down slowly, which is really cool. So you don't need a person at the bottom. So we were able to go up high on some of these tall rock walls using that. And then we did bouldering, which were much harder problems. Some of these problems are insane to climb.
Yeah, we were seeing some crazy people do some crazy stuff, and I was trying trying to follow their tactics. And give me a couple more times and I got it for sure.
We'll go on Long Island.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go again, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's a good climbing gym that me and Lynn bought. Yeah, shout out to Lynn. I'm going to see him in a couple of days in Florida. He's part of my Return to Nature group that we do Friendsgiving with, which is cool. Yeah, so that day was pretty much mostly climbing. And then we happened to meet this group of guys. It was a father and two sons at the rock climbing gym, and they invited us out to shawarma, which was like, I don't recommend being in a foreign country and getting into a car with strangers, but that's like low-key what we did.
It is. It's not low-key. It's what we did,
That's
bro.
what we did. I also am just like a very personable guy, and so was the father. Like, we immediately hit it off in conversation. The same way we've been making friends throughout this entire trip, him and I became fast friends. And he invited us out to this shawarma place very close by, and it was probably the best shawarma I've ever had.
I've never had shawarma, and I even said this might have been one of the best food spots we've ever had, like this whole trip, because we've never had a bad meal yet.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
this spot, I was like, wow, this is way better than most of the things we ate before.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best parts about it was the baklava.
That was good.
It was really good. If anybody doesn't know what baklava is, it's like a really sweet, very like syrupy, sugary, like layered dessert, and it has pistachios on it, and it's very rich and mapley almost.
Very flaky, almost like a croissant.
Yeah,
Flaky
it has like that
croissant.
flakiness to it. Yeah, it was fantastic. That was Tyler's first time having it, but I used to love it growing up. My mom once made me a birthday cake. It wasn't a cake, it was just a sheet of baklava with candles in it, so I asked for it, so it was really nice to have it again. This was a little more authentic. No offense, Mom. But yeah, so that was actually like most of the day. We ended up going back to the Airbnb after that and just hanging out. I grabbed some pizza and a beer after that, but Ty needed to rest.
Yeah, I really needed to rest because now, as we are filming today on Tuesday, our last day here, I feel way better. I still got a little cough. My nose is running not as much, but I couldn't talk really a lot. Like, once you hear my interview videos come out for Comic Con, I'm going to sound like a graspy smoker. But I can talk now. I feel better. And today, where did we go?
Oh, well, today we went to...
I know where we went, but I want you to tell me.
Alright, so today Ty wanted me to take him to the Borough Market, which is just south and a little bit west of Tower Bridge. So we walked there, and it is this kind of, I want to say it's like a 2 square block radius, even though they don't have blocks here. It's like a small market where it's just all food vendors. And it is actually a place that inspired the Diagon Alley in Harry Potter, if anybody's familiar with those movies. And so I think they actually filmed a couple of scenes in Borough Market. But the entire place was full of these like amazing like fresh food vendors. There was like so many like gourmet cheeses. I actually bought a couple of those. There were restaurants like making food like on the spot, like street food. I had some Indian, I don't even know what it was, pate or something? Oh no, we had mushroom pate, which was just a sample. But then I had some sort of Indian like burrito curry thing with chickpeas. And then you had...
So, I had some, there's actually a viral place here called the Black Pig. I've seen it on TikTok, and the guy we met yesterday at rock climbing told us about it. And they sell, pork sandwiches. Slapped. It was one of the best sandwiches I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And even like he was saying, have we tried the bread with the mushrooms? Pate, right? How do you say it?
Yeah.
Pate on it? I don't like I don't like mushrooms. But here, I like mushrooms now.
Yeah. And you also had truffles in one of your, I think in the sandwich it had truffles.
Yeah, so back in America, everyone says I'm very picky on eating, but being here and eating that food here, it's just different.
I'm also a bit of a bad friend because every time Ty says he doesn't like a certain food, I go out of my way to find that food and just like feed it to him and be like, yo, trust me, just eat this.
No, I'm willing to try foods. I'm not big on cheese. Like, if you tried like straight up cheese, like I wouldn't do that. But like I don't mind like mozzarella cheese pizza or this and that.
He had Parmesan on his sandwich.
Parmesan grated cheese, but that's fine. Like I'm not a big. I hate mayo. Back in America, mayo, the worst. I hate it. You can get it away from me.
Mayo.
It always messes up my stomach.
That's a message to Big Mayo. Okay, get your shit together.
Yeah, and they had mayo on the sandwich, and I'm not a big fan of coleslaw in America either. And every time we went somewhere, they put coleslaw on the sandwiches, and I liked it. And this was apple coleslaw, so it's a little like different with the flavor.
Sure.
And Yeah, but they put on mayo in their apple coleslaw, and I absolutely loved it. All the food here is just hits different because I don't like any of that stuff at home. But here, I was willing to try it because I'm like, all the food's natural and without anything filled in it, and it's so much better. Every bite, my eyes were rolling back.
Yeah, he was having a, I'm going to say this, but I mean it in a non-sexual way. He was having an orgasmic experience with this food. Like, you see his reactions. We had some, like, lavender lemonade, and he literally, like, jumped out of his skin. He was like, this is so good, so amazing. And then I see him eating the sandwich he's talking about, and he's just moaning to himself.
Okay.
Looking at the sandwich like it's the best thing he's ever seen in his life. He's, like, making love to this sandwich. And then, because the food here is so clean and it doesn't bloat you at all, which is I'm going to go on a rant in a second about that. But he goes, oh, dude, I feel well fed. Like, I'm almost full, but I'm not bloated. I feel like I can fit more in my stomach. So he goes and gets fish and chips.
So London actually has a rated spot for like the #1 fish and chips in all of London, and it's in Borough Market. And dude, I was seeing people get it. I'm like, I gotta get it. I will say the chips were okay.
Chips are just fries,
yeah,
like
fries. But they weren't really anything special. But the fish, dude, one bite, I was drooling. I was like, oh my gosh, this is good. This is good. And yeah, it's the best fish and chips I've ever had in my life. And then even after, I wanted more, so I got these like chocolate covered strawberries. Obviously, we have that in America, but I had it. Best strawberries I've ever had in my life.
It was kind of like a chocolate fondue kind of thing.
Yeah,
It was a cup of strawberries, and they drizzled like this chocolate over it.
Yeah, it's pretty viral there too. Like there's a huge line for it. That was probably the biggest line for me, at least, to wait on. Those were the best strawberries I've ever had. Back at home, strawberries do not taste like that.
Yeah.
It was so fresh, watery, so just soft, and the chocolate on top of it was just good. Didn't feel like I was just eating a bowl of sugar. And then I also had two more things. I went to a random bakery spot, and I picked up this apple crumb something. I wasn't the hugest fan of that. That was probably the thing I least liked the most. Croissant, it was still good, but it was my least favorite. And then I had a croissant filled with cookie dough and like marshmallows and stuff. Dude, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
I think my favorite thing, apart from the sandwiches, which I actually went back and I ordered the same sandwich he got to go, so I was eating that later on in the day, but I really like the cheese. I picked up a couple of like gourmet cheese blocks to bring home to New York, actually, so I'm going to see how I get that through security.
Yeah, because I also picked up a bunch of real sauces, like tomato sauce, because back in the US, our sauce is usually canned, and it's not that good, but they had real tomato sauce they were selling, and they put it like in their own bottles. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to make a meal out of this. So I bought the two most popular ones that they had.
It was like a pasta vendor, and they had like some really authentic like homemade noodles and pastas and stuff, and then they were selling really cool pasta sauce. Which one did you get?
I don't really remember what it's called because
it was like the boar
something. Instead of like it being beef, it was boar. I mean, that's probably like the same category.
Boar is like a wild pig.
Yeah. So. Yeah, because I'm a big fan of like pork and stuff, but it had something to do with pork something, and it looked really good. And the woman said it was very.
It was a ragu. That's what it was. It was like
boar ragu. That's what
boar ragu.
Boar ragu, like meat. It's almost like a meat sauce, and it has this like certain flavor to it. And I can't wait to make it when I get home.
You have to share a little with your family, but also with me. Also, back to my rant. The food here is way different than New York. Like, we obviously know, Tyler's been talking about this, but we obviously know that they don't allow American chicken in Europe. Like, they will not import our chicken.
If you mind me cutting you off for a second there are like 30 different foods and drink choices in America that they do not let in London or in other countries as well. And the #1 is chicken, and #2 is salmon, and it's like all the extra like candy and like soda crap, and just like all like the pastry stuff you get in America, like the Twinkies and blah blah blah. And pork is a big one. So hearing all like our meats we eat in America and fish, and then having it here, it was a whole different experience. And he can tell you more about it.
I mean, the rant is that in America, all of our food is heavily laced with like seed oils, high fructose corn syrup, and other chemicals that are like super inflammatory and lead to diseases, heart disease, and diabetes, and Alzheimer's, and whatever. Like, it's all poison. There are some things that are like the main ingredient of rat poison is in like half our foods. It's insane.
Tell them about when you're having the conversation with you're having shawarma.
Oh yeah.
Cholesterol.
So we're out with the father and his two sons, and we're talking, and I asked him, I said, do they even test for high cholesterol in the UK? And he goes, not really. Like, they test it if you have some other pre-existing condition, because it's a good indicator of like what your prognosis could be. So like, it's not that you need to treat high cholesterol, because they genuinely don't care about high cholesterol. You could have like insanely high cholesterol, they don't care. But if you have high cholesterol and you also have something else that's wrong with you, then that's when they start testing. But in America, they'll prescribe you cholesterol medication like it's candy, like it's going out of style. And we know for a fact that cholesterol is an essential part of the brain's function. And having cholesterol in your brain prevents things like Alzheimer's, dementia. And I've like experienced that firsthand because my grandmother sadly had dementia before she passed away, and she was on cholesterol medication. I think if she wasn't, I think her brain function and her memory would have been so much better.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it, and like the only thing about that was I was saying, because everyone, you hear cholesterol and everyone thinks it's bad. No, it's good to have cholesterol, but you need the, almost like when you eat good food, you need the good food. It's the same thing. You need good cholesterol. If you're out here in London, you're still eating fast food here, it's not going to be good for you, but it's going to be a little better than America.
Well, we had McDonald's that one night,
and the McDonald's was fire. But
McDonald's
was fire.
It was great.
The cholesterol that like the father was talking about is he's eating good food, and it's like the natural cholesterol coming into him. It's not the processed cholesterol that we get in America. Like I mentioned at the dinner table with all of us, our differences on bread. We have white bread in America, and it's so packaged and so condensed with all this crap. And he was like, "Packaged bread? What?" Like,
so the story behind bread is that they basically genetically engineer the wheat. Essentially, they take out the nutrients from wheat so that it creates bread that has a longer shelf life. So if there's less nutrients in the bread, then it won't rot on the shelf and go moldy and stale.
Yes, because one thing here in London, if you get something, you have to eat it at least in that week, because
if not sooner, sometimes natural bread goes bad like the next day.
Because everything's all natural here, which I think is fantastic and better.
Yeah,
I would do that any day in a heartbeat.
It's great. And like we met these girls who are cosplaying as Teen Titans, and basically they even said anytime they visit the States, like specifically Florida, they always I don't know, they get bloated, they get inflammation from the food over there.
Yeah, she said she gets a really bad stomachache every time she's out in Florida, but they want to like come out here more and have the fast food, which is funny. But yeah, they did mention that, and we just looked at each other and was like,
yeah, that makes sense. That tracks. So yeah, so that was good. And that was just the beginning of our day. Like, because we were at Comic Con most of the week and we had other things planned, I really wanted to see a few of the sites that I never got to see last time I was here. So we went right by the Borough Market. We went to Southwark Chapel, which is a beautiful church. I'm really into church architecture and stuff. So we toured that. It was really nice. It's like a Gothic cathedral right outside of Borough Market. And then we hopped on the train and we went over to Westminster Abbey, which is another place that I didn't get to see last time I was here, and it was just on my list of things to do. Like, it's the church that's most famous for the royal coronations. So obviously Prince Charles has now become King Charles III. He was coronated there. Previously his mother Elizabeth II was coronated there. So it's the place where all the kings and queens are coronated in England, which I thought was like beautiful. And it's all just like incredibly detailed sculptures, and a lot of actual tombs are in there around the perimeter of the church. So a lot of famous royalty and other individuals are buried there, which I think is cool. And the crypts are, some of them are like out of the ground.
He's very big into architecture. I like it for sure. Definitely not as big as him. So like, I personally am the type of guy like, whatever. Like, that's cool. It's really nice looking, but definitely I said to him inside, I was like, what makes this place better is that, like, you know, the real bodies are inside these tombs right now. Like, as we're looking at them, and most of them are all gated off, so you can't even like touch half of them. And a lot of them were even on the floor too. They're like implanted on the floor, I guess. And,
yeah.
And like you just walk over them, but they're real tombs. Like, that for me makes it more interesting, because it's like anyone can build a statue of something. and be like, oh, this is a marked time in history. But no, we're really seeing the real deal. And it's like, you somehow crack that thing open, you're seeing something crazy on the inside.
Yeah. So the last thing we did today was, I mean, obviously London is a huge city and we can't see all of it in one trip, but I wanted to take Ty on the London Eye, which is a giant Ferris wheel in the middle of Westminster on the South Bank. And so we had tickets for that and we jumped on. It's like a 40-minute round trip around the Ferris wheel and you can see almost all of London from that vantage point. It was really cool. What did you think of the experience?
It was really nice because you got to see like all of London from the top. Like it was cool. It was a really nice view, and obviously there was a crowd of people in there as well. The Ferris wheels sometimes in New York are a little sketchy, but this one here is very well grounded and safe. And I think anyone who does come here should do it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like a giant bicycle wheel, I was saying to him. It's like a huge bicycle wheel on spokes hanging over the water, over the Thames. So it was really cool. So yeah, guys, I know it's been a wild roller coaster of a podcast because we're kind of just recapping our trip and talking about all the things we thought. I just want to close out by saying, like, it's been an incredible experience traveling to these different conventions in New York, in London, and as I head to Miami this weekend, I'm just like so blessed to be able to do this with my friends, especially Tyler. He's like one of my closest friends, one of the three brothers. And I just want to thank everyone who watches the podcast. I want to thank God. And I'm just so blessed to be out here in London on our last night. So just to end, what is the hot take from, I guess, the last 2 weeks?
Hot take?
Yeah. We've been asking people in interviews, what's your hot take? Could be about anything.
My biggest hot take in all of London: learn how to walk and notice your surroundings. Please, to the love of God. Like, I literally, listen, I love you guys here. Just know how, just walk and know what's in front of you when you're walking, please. That's all I got.
Alright, guys. Thank you for watching. This has been a fantastic episode of the Three Brothers Podcast. I hope to bring you some more content soon. As usual, you can find us on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at 3brothers_podcast. And you can find Tyler at
Tyler.Losi on every platform.
So go check us out.